Imagine standing right at the edge.
Yeah.
You get a terminal cancer diagnosis.
Yeah.
And the paths forward, the conventional ones, they just feel so devastatingly limited.
Yeah.
And what if you found something else? A path less traveled, maybe even forgotten. This idea is starving cancer that really challenges decades of mainstream thinking.
What if the answers were kind of there all along, you know?
Yeah.
Buried under maybe scientific dogma or, well, economic reality.
Exactly. So today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that kind of story. It's an extraordinary personal battle with cancer that went way beyond just survival. It actually led to developing a groundbreaking metabolic protocol.
It's a really compelling narrative, yeah. And it forces us, I think, to question some established wisdom. We're going to explore the science behind this cancer-starving idea and unravel the history a bit, like why was this potentially powerful theory sidelined for so long? And also talk about the people, both patients and some visionary scientists who are fighting to bring it back, often against a lot of resistance.
And our material today comes from two really powerful sources. First, there's this deeply personal memoir. It's intimate, raw, sometimes brutal. But ultimately, it's a triumphant story. It covers navigating the diagnosis, the treatment, the fertility challenges.
Which are just heartbreaking.
Totally. And it culminates in the author creating this detailed, self-tested, cancer-starving formula. It's more than just a medical story. It's really about resilience.
And balancing that, we have a scientific expose tripping over the truth. This book really unpacks the historical debate, the scientific arguments between the genetic view of cancer and the metabolic one.
Crucial context.
Absolutely. It provides that context and validation for the metabolic approach. And it shows how science isn't always a straight line, right? It kind of stumbles, finds dead ends, and then sometimes, against the odds, finds its way back.
So our mission here is pretty clear. We want to pull out the most important, maybe even surprising insights from these sources. We want to help you, our listener, navigate this incredibly complex world of cancer treatment.
Yeah, to understand the potential, maybe, of repurposed drugs, dietary strategies, this integrated approach.
And maybe most importantly, just see why challenging the established way of thinking can sometimes lead to really profound breakthroughs.
Sure.
So let's really get into it.
Okay.
So our journey starts, not in a lab, but with a moment that just completely shattered a life. The author describes her initial diagnosis with this almost chilling precision. She gets this call, 7 p.m. on a Friday. You know, the kind of call you never want.
Ever good news at that time.
Right. And the horror was instant. Her husband, Andrew, was on speakerphone, too. She remembers her voice trembling, pleading, just tell me now, I can't wait for you to drive over.
Oh, wow.
And the silence, the doctor's tone, she knew. It was devastating. And right away, this sense of despair, isolation. She realized cancer wasn't just physical. It hits everything. Your emotions, relationships, everything.
It's such a stark picture of how fast a diagnosis becomes this all-consuming life crisis. And what's really striking is her immediate grasp, almost prophetic, that it affected everything, her future dreams, and especially her ability to have children.
Yeah.
It just shows the holistic devastation, right? It goes way beyond the tumor itself to reshape your whole identity, your future.
And that emotional agony, it just got deeper with the radiotherapy. She describes weeping on the treatment table, just uncontrollably. And the feeling, she put it so clearly, was like having her future children killed. She felt this incredible rage against the system that felt like it was stealing her future, her identity.
Wow.
She remembers the radiotherapist trying to comfort her, giving her tissues, but inside she's screaming, "Murderers! You killed my future children!"
That's intense.
And a big part of that reaction, she says, was because nobody warned her, not really, about the hormonal crash. Her hormones just plummeted to zero.
This is huge.
Huge. And this massive physiological shift, completely unaddressed, it changed her. She went from being, in her words, hot-headed, hormonal, to just being consumed by this deep, pervasive grief she was totally unprepared for.
That really hits on a critical point about patient preparation, doesn't it? The lack of warning about something so significant, like a total hormonal shutdown, which obviously has huge psychological impacts. It just underscores this disconnect you sometimes see.
Right.
The focus is so often just on killing the cancer cells, not on the whole person, the whole system that's under attack. That kind of comprehensive education is vital, but often missing.
And that grief, that unaddressed grief, it led her into this struggle for independence and eventually a kind of painful reconciliation in her relationship. She actually left London.
Really?
Yeah, went to Guernsey, rented a cottage, this island sanctuary. She wanted to be alone, process it alone, even resisted help from her parents. She felt she needed to be strong, less reliant on Andrew.
Wow, isolating herself in grief.
Crying every day, she said, just trying to process this immense loss. But Andrew, her husband, he was unwavering. Eventually, he came to her and just laid it out. I believe in you and I love you. I really want you to come back to London and live with me.
That must have been huge.
Immense relief, she said. Like, thank God. But that pain of lost fertility, it was still there. This heavy thing between them, a constant reminder of what cancer took.
It's such a poignant look at vulnerability and resilience in a relationship under that kind of pressure. Wanting independence, needing support. And that loss of fertility is just such a profound, often overlooked part of survivorship.
Yeah.
It's not just about family planning. It hits your identity, your sense of self, long term. Conventional medicine often doesn't prepare people for that adequately.
And that lingering pain, that desire for a family, it pushed them towards parenthood, but down a really difficult road. She talks about facing these rigid rules and blinkered attitudes from adoption agencies.
Oh, that's tough.
Multiple rejections. Soul-crushing, she calls it. Just highlighting the emotional cost of bureaucracy that felt almost designed to break spirits already fragile.
Yeah.
So adoption seemed closed off. She then had to persuade Andrew about surrogacy. He was initially reluctant, worried about the fairness of it all.
Understandable concern.
But with no other options, he lovingly agreed. And the process. She describes it as sheer length, pain, difficulty, and expense. Just an odyssey. Appointments, legal stuff, emotional ups and downs, huge financial strain.
Wow.
But it all led to this moment of pure joy. Meeting her son, Jamie, for the first time.
Oh,
The
God.
best feeling in the world, she said. Her whole world right here in my arms.
Amazing.
But even then, even in that sacred moment, she mentions rude staff at the hospital making hurtful, unfounded accusations of coercion against their surrogate, Tabitha.
Oh, come on. Seriously.
Just a jarring, bitter note against the immense joy. A reminder of how insensitive systems can be, even in life's most precious moments.
That really shows incredible perseverance, and it highlights that contrast again, doesn't it? The personal triumph against systemic obstacles, even in moments of joy. It's a recurring theme. The battle isn't just the disease, it's often the rigid, sometimes unsympathetic systems too, the human cost, the sheer grit required. It's palpable.
And that grit was tested again. Years later, danger returned. It was late 1998, 5 years after the first diagnosis and all the treatment. She starts getting this nagging cough.
Oh, no.
She wasn't prone to panic, but she knew enough about her cancer type to know the lungs were the most likely place for spread. So this persistent cough, understandably, hugely stressful, put her on high alert immediately.
Right.
Her GP initially brushed it off. Chest infection, antibiotics, they didn't work, of course. And her distrust of the medical profession, already simmering from past disappointments, the unaddressed side effects, legal stuff. It just grew. She felt dismissed, not heard.
That really raises the issue of patient intuition, doesn't it? And doctors needing to listen. Patients, especially those who've been through serious illness, often have this deep sense of when something's wrong.
Exactly.
Dismissing her concerns, given her history, that reinforces that problem where protocols can sometimes override lived experience. It erodes trust.
Hugely. And what's truly remarkable and really a turning point is how she reacted when she did get the terminal news for this recurrence.
Okay.
She was told she might be close to popping her clogs.
Right.
Very little time implied. But she found herself not in an enormous panic. She actually took it far better, she reflects, than the news about losing her womb years earlier.
Wow, that's a profound shift.
It really was. Instead of fear, instead of rushing into treatment, she made this conscious, defiant choice. No immediate surgery or treatment. She decided to research first, to take stock before letting the medical profession loose on my body again. An act of real autonomy.
That psychological shift is fascinating. Having faced that deep personal loss fertility, a core part of identity and processing that grief, maybe the terminal physical diagnosis, while still devastating, didn't trigger the same existential panic.
Almost inoculated her.
In a way, yeah. It gave her this clarity, this space to approach it analytically, empowered, not driven by terror. A shift from victim to investigator.
An investigator she became. She describes herself vividly as a cancer Sherlock Holmes.
I love that.
Totally committed. Scouring PubMed, medical articles, teaching herself complex science, and crucially, not just looking at alternative stuff, she recognized useful areas of conventional oncology that were being ignored or downplayed.
Great.
This comprehensive, almost obsessive search became her mission, understand cancer from every angle.
That highlights something really key. A truly integrated approach, pulling the best from conventional and complementary, often works best. Rejecting either outright limits you. Being a Sherlock Holmes means looking at all the clues, wherever they come from, and putting them together. That independence, questioning the status quo, that's often where breakthroughs happen.
But as she dug deeper, this cynicism started to creep in. She had these unsettling thoughts about doctors maybe letting cancer progress because of rigid protocols or mistakes being covered up.
That's heavy.
Questioning the Hippocratic Oath, even feeling like patients were pawns in a system that serves the pharmaceutical industry. But instead of despair, it fueled her. Her mantra became, attack from every angle, refusing to let fear rule, fiercely independent.
It raises uncomfortable questions about systemic pressures, doesn't it?
Yeah.
While the idea of doctors intentional letting things progress is deeply cynical, the source does acknowledge the reality that pharma interests and rigid protocols do constrain doctors.
Right, it's the system.
It's a critique of the system. It highlights the need for more transparency, patient advocacy, ways to counter those powerful, often hidden forces.
And in this amazing moment of defiance, pure joy, really, despite having a lung tumor terminal diagnosis, she married Andrew in 1999.
Wow.
She describes rushing to buy a dress Thursday afternoon, her aunt sending pink champagne, a happy lunch. And she looks back at a photo from that day and says, I really don't think I look unhealthy. I certainly didn't feel it.
Incredible.
It just captures her resilience, her determination to live fully, embrace happiness even then. It's more than a wedding photo. It's a testament to spirit over circumstance.
That's powerful.
So that incredible personal journey, it doesn't just inspire, it leads us right into the science, the paradigm shift that underpins her whole approach. Let's talk about a forgotten pioneer.
Okay, yeah. To really get the context, we need to understand the confusion back then after the big war on cancer was declared in the 70s.
Right, huge expectation.
Huge investment, huge confidence. But a decade later, serious doubts were creeping in about the actual progress, lots of debate, confusion about what fundamentally causes cancer, and that's where Otto Warburg comes in, a giant of science.
A Nobel laureate, working way back in the 1930s.
Absolutely, a true luminary. His work identified the Warburg effect, and he proposed this revolutionary idea. The prime cause of cancer is the replacement of the respiration of oxygen in normal body cells by a fermentation of sugar.
Okay, break that down. Fermentation of sugar.
Essentially, yeah. Healthy cells mostly use oxygen to efficiently burn glucose in their mitochondria. That's the powerhouse. Cancer cells, Warburg found, even with oxygen present, overwhelmingly rely on a much less efficient process fermentation, like yeast making alcohol.
So they're addicted to sugar and burn it inefficiently.
Exactly. This fundamental shift in how they make energy, he argued, was cancer's core vulnerability, its Achilles heel.
That sounds incredibly fundamental. Why wasn't this huge news? Why did it get sidelined?
That's the million-dollar question, and it points to scientific trends, institutional bias. Because despite Warburg's strong evidence, the dominant story became especially pushed by powerful groups like the National Cancer Institute, the NCI, that cancer is a genetic disease. This took hold even though inherited genetic mutations are the primary driver in only 5 to 7% of all cancers.
Only 5 to 7%. Why?
Yeah. Plus, the intellectual focus shifted dramatically after Watson and Crick discovered DNA structure. Biology's top dogs went from biochemists like Warburg studying metabolism to molecular biologists focused entirely on genes. It was all about the genome.
A kind of genetic gold rush.
Pretty much. It dominated everything.
And this genetic focus was so strong that even James Watson, Mr. DNA himself, later said something pretty remarkable.
He did. He said if he were starting in cancer research today, he'd study biochemistry, not molecular biology.
That's huge. From the co-discoverer of DNA. A quiet nod that maybe they'd gone too far down one path.
It signals a potential shift, maybe, finally starting after decades of genetic dominance, because for so long, the focus was almost solely on DNA mutations, leading to this intense search for magic bullets.
Ah, the magic bullet idea. Paul Ehrlich's vision. One drug, one target, cure the disease. So appealing.
Totally appealing. And early chemo seemed to fit that mold. Nitrogen mustard, discovered accidentally in WWII from mustard gas victims.
Right, toxic effects led to a treatment idea.
Exactly. A sliver of possibility became an exciting realization. Then came combination chemo. Sidney Farber, Gertrude Elion, treating childhood leukemia with methotrexate, 6-MP, groundbreaking stuff.
How did combining them make such a difference?
Well, alone, the drugs gave maybe 15–20% response, modest, but together, response rates jumped over 45%. Huge synergy. That set the stage for total therapy, hitting cancer harder from multiple angles.
Okay, so combining drugs was clearly better, but these were harsh drugs, right? Was everyone on board with these extreme protocols?
No, there was definitely skepticism. Farber and Vincent DeVito really pushed these aggressive regimens for leukemia Hodgkin's, facing ethical concerns about toxicity, but the results were undeniable.
What kind of result?
Like 80% of Pinkel's kids were estimated to be cured of leukemia. DeVito got 60% cure rates for Hodgkin's. Unheard of then. This success forged the missing link. Huge celebration, awards. It really cemented the idea that the genetic approach, hitting rapidly dividing cells, was the answer.
And that led straight to the modern magic bullets like Herceptin, trastuzumab for HER2 positive breast cancer. Massive hype around that one.
Oh, huge fanfare. Significant medical breakthrough, revolutionary, the future beyond chemo poisons, precision medicine arrived.
But there was a catch, right? The marginal benefit paradox.
Exactly. Despite the hype, the quiet truth, the unspoken observation was Herceptin only gave a marginal benefit in overall survival in maybe 15–20% of cases.
Only 15–20%
Yeah,
after all that.
Yeah. And Ulrich's experiment made it even weirder. He showed the HER2 gene could cause cancer alone, yet targeting it directly gave limited results. It just screamed something was clearly wrong.
Like there was this other stuff going on, cancer's dark matter.
Precisely. Genetics wasn't the whole story. And this whole genetic narrative was powerfully shaped by Bert Vogelstein. His 2,000 Hallmarks of Cancer paper became the absolute backbone of every textbook.
Define the field.
Totally. But then huge sequencing projects like the Cancer Genome Atlas revealed total genetic bedlam, just chaos in tumor DNA, which massively complicated designing those neat magic bullets.
If every tumor is genetically unique chaos, how can one drug work?
Exactly. It made some wonder if mutations were maybe a side effect of the underlying problem, not the main driver. This started to reopen the door intellectually for the metabolic view to make a comeback.
And that resurgence starts somewhere really unexpected. Metformin, the diabetes drug.
Right. Millions use it. Then the shocking 2006 study comes out. Type 2 diabetics on metformin substantially reduced rates of cancer. Totally unexpected.
Wow. And why? How does it work?
Likely through metabolism. It blocks key growth pathways. IGF-1 and mTOR, think of them as accelerators for cell growth that cancer hijacks. Plus, it boosts good gut bacteria. So, a simple, cheap drug hitting cancer's metabolism, hiding in plain sight.
A classic off-target effect proving incredibly useful.
Absolutely. And it fits perfectly with other findings, like how caloric restriction, fasting, things known to restore mitochondria, are maybe the only established way to reduce overall cancer rates, besides avoiding carcinogens. It points to fundamental energy regulation.
So messing with cancer's energy supply is key. Which brings us to hexakinase II, and this compound 3BP, bromopyruvate.
Yeah, Dr. Youngko's work. Hexakinase II is like the gatekeeper enzyme. It traps glucose inside cancer cells, making them bloated with sugar they can't use efficiently.
The 3BP blocks that enzyme.
Exactly. And in animal studies, it worked quite dramatically. Tumors showed almost all dead necrotic cells, healthy tissue, spared. One human case study showed it could wipe out cancer.
That sounds miraculous. Why isn't it everywhere?
The usual suspects. Funding challenges, partly because it's hard to patent. Intellectual property fights, frustrating. But co-formed Co-Discovery, LLC, determined to push it forward.
The challenges faced by things like 3BP really show how economics can block progress, especially for cheap or unpatentable stuff.
Sadly, yes. But the promise of mitochondria enhancement therapy is huge, especially within broader strategies like PressPulse.
Okay, PressPulse, developed by Seafried and D'Agostino. Explain that.
It's elegant. A restricted ketogenic diet, RKD, acts as the press. It gently, continuously weakens cancer by cutting off its favorite fuel, glucose.
Right, starving it slowly.
Then metabolic therapies like maybe 3BP or IV vitamin C provide the pulse, a targeted hit to push those weakened cells over the edge into death.
So weaken them, then deliver the knockout blow.
Precisely. And the vision, coming out of chemotherapy healthier than you came in, totally different from the usual debilitating effects. It nurtures healthy cells while starving cancer cells. Restorative, not just destructive.
And you mentioned the brain is ideal for this.
Yeah, because the brain relies heavily on glucose, but it switches beautifully to using ketones when you're on a ketogenic diet. Healthy brain cells adapt fine. Glucose-addicted cancer cells struggle and die. Powerful for brain cancers.
A restorative approach.
Yeah.
That's a game changer. But biologically, how do these therapies kill the cells? What's the mechanism?
It involves cellular defense. Cancer cells hoard glutathione, the master antioxidant, to protect themselves from the massive oxidative stress their messy metabolism creates.
Like a shield.
Exactly. The strategy is to knock down that shield, reduce glutathione, and simultaneously crank up reactive oxygen species, ROS. These are unstable molecules that damage cells.
So overwhelm their defenses.
Right. When ROS surges past the cell's ability to handle it, the cell becomes unstable and undergoes apoptosis-programmed cell death. Intravenous vitamin C is a key player here, known for raising ROS levels effectively, turning cancer's defense into its downfall.
Okay, this is complex stuff. The author used analogies to help visualize it, right? Piccadilly Circus.
Yeah, that's a great one. It illustrates needing to attack from every direction. A constellation of therapies, repurposed drugs, natural compounds hitting both the metabolism and the genetics, like traffic converging from all roads.
Got it. And the other one, the Metro map.
Brilliant visual. It helps patients understand how cancer rewires its metabolism. Cancer often gets addicted to specific fuels, glucose, glutamine, fatty acids, maybe even ketones.
So the map shows the fuel lines.
Exactly. It helps pinpoint your cancer's specific metabolic phenotype, its preferred fuel, so you can target treatment. And crucially, it shows how cancer adapts. Block one route, it'll reroute up the same side of the triangle, find another pathway to the same type of fuel.
Wow. So you need the map to stay one step ahead.
Absolutely. It makes a strategy dynamic, adaptable, personalized to each cancer's specific metabolic wiring.
It's really about outsmarting this adaptable enemy, not just brute force. Which leads us right into the actual arsenal of hope they put together, starting with those cheap, overlooked drugs.
Right, the cancer-starving cocktail.
So understanding cancer's metabolism, its fuel lines, the goal becomes clear. Build this arsenal to starve it, disrupt it, hit it from all sides. This cancer-starving cocktail made mostly of affordable off-patent drugs.
Exactly. And this is where the metabolic theory gets really practical. These aren't new experimental drugs. They're common meds, costing pennies a day. But they're powerful, off-target anti-cancer effects, often discovered by accident or independent research, but largely ignored by mainstream oncology. Why? No profit incentive.
Let's start with metformin again. We mentioned it, but why is it such a cornerstone here?
Well, beyond just starving cancer of glucose, it blocks IGF-1 and mTOR, those key accelerators for cell growth that cancer loves to hijack.
Right, slows down proliferation.
Plus, that benefit of boosting good gut bacteria, improving the microbiome, that's increasingly seen as vital for immune function and overall health. A really holistic effect.
Okay, then statins.
Oh.
Cholesterol drugs, how they fit in.
Yeah.
Seems unlikely to most people.
Surprisingly, yeah, they show significant anti-cancer activity, stabilizing leukemia, advanced cervical cancer. Their mechanism involves targeting an enzyme, HMG-CoA reductase.
The cholesterol pathway enzyme.
Right, but that pathway also makes molecules essential for cancer cell growth and survival. Interestingly, retinoids vitamin A derivatives with known anti-cancer effects target the same enzyme. So it's about disrupting a key metabolic pathway cancer exploits.
Fascinating. What about dipyridamole? That's an antiplatelet drug, right, for stroke prevention?
It is, but its anti-cancer potential has been noted for decades in places like the Townsend letter. A 1985 Lancet report by Rhodes showed an amazing 74% 5-year survival for level IV melanoma patients on 300 milligrams a day.
74% for stage 3C melanoma. That's incredible.
Yeah. The author took 100 milligrams daily with aspirin and magnesium, hoping it would just buy time, given her diagnosis and refusal of more chemo. The antiplatelet effect might also hinder metastasis by stopping cancer cells clumping.
And NSAIDs, like ibuprofen, stuff everyone has for headaches. How does that fight cancer?
There's a potent synergy described. Combining a statin and an NSAID, like ibuprofen or etodolac, triggers significant apoptosis-programmed cell death in cancer cells.
Ow.
Through the caspase cascade. Think of it like biological dominoes falling. Once triggered, it systematically dismantles the cell. The author even tested swapping aspirin for etodolac for a month based on research suggesting huge synergy when these simple drugs are combined.
Wow. And cimetidine, or burn drug.
Included for its immune-enhancing effects, especially post-surgery. It helps reverse the suppression of T suppressor cells.
The ones that dampen the immune response.
Exactly. By lifting that suppression, cimetidine helps maintain tumor-infiltrating lymphocytes, TILs. These are the good guys. Immune cells inside the tumor fighting it. Keeping them active after surgery is crucial for long-term control. She regretted not knowing about it before her lung operation.
What's so striking is, like you said, these are all accessible, cheap drugs.
Totally. Pennies a day. Widely prescribed for other things, largely ignored by the pharma industry because the patents are gone, no profit in funding big trials for cancer use, even with promising data.
It draws that stark comparison to HIV/AIDS treatment development.
Yeah, where drug cocktails transformed a death sentence into a manageable condition. The potential for something similar in cancer, using affordable, available drugs, seems huge, but systematically overlooked.
So it's not just one drug, it's a combination, the synergy.
Absolutely. The core idea is each drug starves the cancer in a different way, hitting unique vulnerabilities. It's the combination that delivers the killer blow once cancer is weakened. Research suggests huge synergy, effects multiplying far beyond the sum of the parts. A sophisticated, multi-pronged attack using accessible tools.
It makes total sense. But beyond the drugs, what about diet, supplements, lifestyle? Are they just extras or core pillars?
Absolutely core pillars, essential for a rounded approach. The sources are emphatic. Taking the drugs without addressing immunity, diet, gut health, lifestyle, stress, you won't get the best, most sustainable results, the whole ecosystem.
Okay, let's revisit intravenous vitamin C. Sounds like a big gun, but controversial, right?
Really big gun. And yeah, controversial history highlights potential bias. Early studies by Cameron and Pauling showed amazing results, 20 times greater survival, 343 days compared to 180. Crucially, they used intravenous plus oral vitamin C.
Not just pills.
Right. The failed Mayo Clinic trials that discredited it used oral only. Oral achieves vastly higher blood levels, creating a pro-oxidant effect that kills cancer cells by generating ROS. Oral just doesn't reach those levels.
So the delivery method is key.
Paramount. But a critical warning. Avoid other antioxidants like vitamin E or N-acetylcysteine during IVC treatment. They can negate its effect, basically shielding the cancer cell.
Got it. And the dietary cornerstone.
Yeah.
More than just no sugar.
It's a strategic, good, low-glycemic diet. Cut refined carbs, sugars, yes, but also strategically use healthy fats. Lots of olive oil, even with omega-6 concerns, because it has beneficial stuff like palmitoleic acid.
Palmitoleic acid.
Found in olive oil, see buckthorn oil. Contains vaccinic acid, a natural trans fat, not the bad industrial kind that actually enhances insulin sensitivity, reduces inflammation, like a super nutrient. Also, strict alcohol avoidance until markers are stable. It's nuanced metabolic nutrition.
So avoid fuel for cancer, add things that help the body fight. What about other specific natural compounds? Any other big guns?
Oh yeah, a whole list. Berberine is highlighted, acts as a calcium channel blocker, helps chemo drugs stay in cancer cells longer. Plus EGCG from green tea, Gymnema sylvestre for blood sugar, hydroxycitrate, pycnogenol, silibinin from milk thistle, curcumin, genistein, quercetin, resveratrol.
Wow, quite a list.
Each chosen for research showing direct cancer killing or blocking blood vessel growth, angiogenesis, or interfering with other key pathways. It's targeted natural pharmacology.
And gut health, micronutrients, why are they so critical?
Gut lining integrity and microbiome balance are vital. Addressing leaky gut and dysbiosis, imbalanced gut bacteria, reduces chronic inflammation, which burdens the immune system. A healthy gut is key for immunity, nutrient absorption.
Makes sense.
Plus, megasublingual doses of folate, 5G-Day, and B12 are mentioned as beneficial, partly because healthy gut bacteria normally make these. And natural progesterone for breast cancer protection, specifically contrasted with synthetic progestin. It's all interconnected.
And finally, exercise. Simple but crucial.
Crucial and specific advice. 15 minutes after every meal, go for a brisk walk and clench those buttocks.
Ah, love the directness.
It's not about extreme exertion, which can deplete immunity. It's moderate, consistent movement, burns fuel circulating after meals, prevents storage or use by cancer, helps lymphatic flow, metabolic efficiency, keeps bad stuff from lingering, especially overnight. Simple, integrated, intentional movement.
It's incredibly comprehensive. Drugs, diet, supplements, lifestyle. But the big hurdle, acceptance. How does mainstream medicine react to this? Sounds like a real battle for acceptance.
A very real battle, yeah. The author's own experience was intense. 9 years after her primary diagnosis, she faced treatment-related leukemia, a terrifying side effect.
Oh my God.
Signaled by odd-shaped red blood cells and, crucially, a deleted p53 gene, the guardian of the genome. Its deletion means the brakes were off for cell growth. High risk for new cancer.
So what happened when she told her oncologist?
The reaction, the oncologist was mad with rage.
Rage. Why? Towards the patient.
It speaks volumes, right? Maybe a perceived challenge to authority, to protocols. That reaction, plus recalling a chilling throwaway line the oncologist made years before during high-dose treatment, "I might kill you with all of this," it just solidified things for the author, I bet. She realized she couldn't blindly trust the conventional system anymore, saw its failings and denial of metabolic issues. It cemented her decision. No more conventional chemo, even facing leukemia. She had to navigate it independently.
So this personal scientific journey morphed into public advocacy, fighting for others too.
Exactly. She launched the Facebook group Jane McClellan's Off-Label Drugs for Cancer, a vital community for sharing experiences, research, support on repurposed drugs. Interestingly, she initially found skepticism even among patients many wanted purely natural cures, wary even of low-toxicity drugs, showed the need for education on integrated approaches.
But her work has found validation from new clinics, right? It's not just one person's crusade now.
Yes, hugely significant validation. The Care Oncology Clinic, COC, co-founded by Dr. Slocum, is a key example. They offer these repurposed drug cocktails, statin, metformin, doxycycline, mebendazole, specifically to complement standard care.
So working alongside conventional treatment.
Exactly, fits the press pulse idea, weakens cancer, enhances overall health, and their results for stage 5e lung cancer using their multi-systemic cancer therapy, MSCT, described as eye-popping.
Eye-popping. Give us the numbers. What makes them say that?
Okay, so Slocum noted their study was only stage 5e patients, often tougher than trials mixing stage 3 and 4. Even so, their MSCT treatment for stage 5e lung cancer showed a mean survival of 43.4 months.
In standard care for stage 4V lung.
Typically grim. Maybe 6.3 to 11.3 months. Do the math. That's a staggering 400% increase in survival in their group.
400% for stage 4V lung cancer.
Exactly, which has one of the highest mortality rates. It's powerful validation for this metabolic, repurposed drug approach that was previously dismissed, even ridiculed.
The proof really is in the outcomes, but despite that, despite patient success, you're saying there's still this huge hostile divide, this yawning chasm. Why?
It's complex, frustrating, described as an outright war, leaving patients floundering in the middle, confused, desperate, often hostility from conventional doctors at just mentioning complementary ideas, an arrogance and superiority, a refusal to look outside protocols.
Why the refusal?
Oncologists feel constrained by their protocols, maybe fear of lawsuits, bullying from health authorities. Plus, the massive influence of pharma, which funds research and education, but has zero incentive to promote cheap, off-patent drugs. It can lead to doctors, perhaps unintentionally, refusing to allow patients to save themselves. It's institutional inertia, financial structures, perceived threats to authority.
So frustrating.
Yep.
And it leads to this powerful call to arms for change.
Absolutely. A strong belief that almost all cancers, even stage IE, can be reversed, and long-term remission, a cure, is possible without devastatingly toxic treatments. The author stresses the impetus for change has to come from the patient.
Patients need to drive it.
Yeah. She calls for more revolting doctors, those willing to challenge the status quo, think outside the box. For more truly integrative practitioners willing to treat holistically, offer evidence-backed, low-toxicity options like IBC or ozone. It's an urgent plea for patient-centered, open-minded, more effective care that uses all the science.
Wow. What an incredible, really profound journey we've covered in this deep dive. From a deeply personal struggle through this hidden scientific history to exploring a powerful, integrated metabolic approach to cancer. From drugs costing pennies a day to the huge impact of diet and lifestyle. The insights here really challenge us to rethink how we approach this incredibly complex disease.
They really do. The sources show a world where life-saving info, affordable treatments might be overlooked, dismissed, maybe even suppressed due to economics or dogma.
Right.
But they also show the power of individual agency, this quiet revolution building among patients, caregivers, visionary doctors, demanding a more comprehensive, compassionate approach.
It's a potent reminder that progress often comes from looking beyond boundaries, asking tough questions, empowering people with knowledge. So for you, our listener, here's a final provocative thought to chew on. Given the compelling evidence we've discussed for metabolic therapies, repurposed drugs, and knowing their history of being marginalized, what responsibility do we, as informed individuals, have to advocate for these approaches? And how can we empower ourselves and others to explore all evidence-backed avenues in the pursuit of health and healing?